Hello and welcome to 100% Real with Ruby. There's probably a little change in scenery you're seeing if you're watching the video because I returned to my normal desk, but I didn't attach my Yeti microphone, so I hope the audio is okay. If not, just, let me know because I actually want to know what you guys hear because I just hear the sound of my own voice through my own head and I can't hear the podcast until after. But today I have Alec Britton here. And the reason I wanted to get her on the podcast is she doesn't have one kid. She has 3 of them. And she manages to work as a nurse and to do all the things that a mum does. Yet still she has time for her fitness, her health, her wellness, and somehow making all of this work with the side gig of doing a little bit of coaching too. But the thing is, how can someone this busy make something like this work? Because, of course, she's adapted to this situation. You can't compare your situation to hers and be like, yeah, she's more busy than me. I shouldn't be having these problems. No, your situation is just as valid. It's when you're faced with something, you just learn to manage. So I'm going to let Alex start this conversation off with, you know what? Let's introduce it with how the fuck do you do it all?
I love that. Yes. Hello, Ruby. Thank you for having me. Sometimes I ask myself that same exact question is like, how the hell am I going to do this today? Or how the hell am I going to do this next week when I look ahead at my schedule? And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie and be like, yeah, everything's all easy breezy. But I think one thing that I definitely want to touch on that you've already said is you said, I have time. I have the time to make time for my wellness and for nursing and for coaching. And it's not that I just have the time, right? It's that I have to make the time. I have to be very intentional with the choices that I make and what's going to serve me most. And a lot of multitasking that goes on, but it's really just planning ahead, making that plan, and then sticking to the damn plan.
What are the main plans that you would say have been the biggest game changers to you staying consistent?
I'd say planning ahead with my meals, most definitely, because you can get very busy and then it's like I'm going to just pop the easiest thing into my mouth, which could maybe be like my kids' chicken nuggets or a cookie from the pantry as I walk by. So cooking in bulk is a game changer for me. Like I'll cook a shitload of rice, I will cook a shitload of chicken, and I will have it so that way when I'm ready to eat or not ready to eat, just have to eat and I haven't eaten, I'm running through, I can get that and it's ready to go. Another thing is going to be like probably, as I said, multitasking or like I think there's like a word for it, but it's basically like habit stacking is where I know I have something that I have to do. So I pair it with something that I necessarily want to do or don't want to do, but I know it's going to benefit me. So working as a nurse full time, I work for at minimum 40 hours a week as a nurse. And with that, like I got a walking treadmill desk attachment so I can move my laptop and I can get my steps in at the same time. So different things like that. I use my lunch break to do client check-ins or plan or bust out some content. So it's just different things where you find to be more efficient with the time that you have. Nobody gives me more time, right? I just find ways to make my time more efficient.
So I think a big part here, if you're listening to this and you're wondering how it applies to your life, it's get really clear on what your time blocks are where you have things in there like work, whatever it is that cannot be changed. And then what is happening around there. But you're not going, like, you never get distracted from things that weren't on the schedule to start with. That's not distraction. Distraction comes from, or whatever you want to call that word, it comes from having something on the schedule and doing something else instead. If it's not scheduled, you're not going to do it because you don't have it broken down. And if you're with someone with like ADHD, just having a big task like meal prep there, you're not going a freaking meal prep. You need to break it down into steps. Do this, do this, do this. And I know you said multitasking, and one part I loved in watching your story was when you said, when I'm in the shower, I have this happening in my slow cooker or microwave or air fryer or whatever you were doing. And then when I come out, it's done and I can just prep it and get it ready. So things like that, like you can leave things on. And I think a big part of this where people get tripped up is that they try to make their meals too complex. instead of keeping the same repetitive things over and over because they're scared they'll get bored. But there are different ways you can spice it up. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that as a cheat code.
Absolutely. So things on that. The first thing is like, a lot of times people will say like it's boring to eat the same thing. One, it could be boring the same thing, but is it boring when you're reaching your goals? So you have to think of like the reward afterwards, right? Like, yeah, this can be kind of boring, but how am I going to feel when I'm getting closer to my goals or when I reach my goal? It's not going to be boring then. But with meal prepping and eating the same thing, I mean, I just really rely on spices and sauces, and that's what I switch up. One day I may have dressing, one day I may have salsa, hot sauce, avocado, whatever it is, but I change the flavors and I stick to a protein and a carb. So it's very easy to one day have chicken. Next week, we're going to have ground beef. This week, we're going to have rice. Next week, we're going to have potatoes. And what do I change? I change the sauces or the spices that I'm using.
What does meal planning actually look like for you in the context of your week?
Just, it's simply that. What protein am I going to have? What carb am I going to have? So this week, for example, I had 4 pounds of ground beef. 2 pounds are frozen. 2 pounds I cooked right up front. I cooked 300 grams of rice and I put some cilantro and some lime juice in there. And that's what I've been having. And I've just been putting it with salsa or avocado salsa or sour cream. And I just kind of manipulate that throughout the day, just depending. You know, next week it could be that I'm going to do chicken thighs instead of ground beef, but it's really just sticking to a protein and a carb, or even just a protein, because really your carb sources are so easy. I can stick it in bread for a sandwich. I can stick it in a tortilla for a burrito. Like it's obviously limitless, but as long as you have that protein already prepped, I'm less likely to reach for my kids' foods or something that is going to throw my whole day off.
I think this is the biggest game changer for anyone. It's like the best supplement you can have is meal prepping. It's not found in a supplement tub. And I know that you get days like this because we all get days like this where you don't feel like showing up, when you're tired, when it's been a long day, either to get your steps in or to eat the healthier choice or to get your training session in. So how do you make those 3 things work when you're in that slump, feeling like you had a long day and the last thing you want to do is use more energy?
A lot of the times I'll tell myself, like, I'm just going to do 10 minutes. Like, I'm just going to get in the gym. I'm going to do 10 minutes, whether that be of walking to get my steps or of lifting. And majority of the time, I've never actually had it go the opposite way of where I've done that 10 minutes and I'm like, okay, I'm done. It's usually like I've done that 10 minutes. I'm already feeling more energized, and now I'm going to just continue finishing whatever it is that I have to do. A lot of the times with my girls, I'm saying like an object in motion stays in motion, right? And an object at rest stays at rest. So once you get going and you get moving, you're most likely to just keep going, checking tasks off your list, versus the days where I'm like, I just want to lay in bed, watch Netflix, order pizza. I don't want to do anything. I don't even want to get up and put the laundry from the washer to the dryer because I'm not in motion, right? I'm just at rest. So just kind of keep going. And if you don't want to do it, sometimes thinking of how you want to feel after and not how you want to, not how you feel in that moment. So a lot of times it's like, I don't feel like doing that. How do I want to feel afterwards? How do I want to feel a week from now? How do I want to feel 4 months from now? I want to feel proud, accomplished. And that just kind of pushes me.
I love that. And also keeping note here that this is where meal prepping helps, because when you are tired, because that's the exercise side, but when you are tired, the last thing you want to do is cook up a big meal. So this is where that meal prepping comes in as your little secret to your results. And I want to also put in another note on the training aspect of it all. It's not the training aspect, the habit stacking aspect. You can make a rule with yourself. Take this with you. It is never too late. You can start something, realize it in the moment. This is where self-awareness becomes a huge tool. The goal is to become more self-aware earlier on. You could be scrolling on your phone, realizing you're sitting on your ass, and then be like, I've already been scrolling for 30 minutes. What's the point now? Actually, yeah, there is still a point. Get up off your bum and go onto like a walking desk and make it like a rule that when you're scrolling your phone or when you're doing something that you can habit stack that doesn't take a lot of brain power or that you don't need to be seated for, just get on a walking desk and you can get steps in that way. And it might seem like, oh, but that just sounds like it's a chore of doing this. But no, it's building the habit of doing it, because then when you start to see how good it makes you feel, and when you get into the lifestyle, when you get deeper into it, yeah, there's going to be a lot of what some people may put out on the internet as that's obsessive, that's not ideal, but they might be, you know, drinking alcohol and doing stupid shit on the other side, and they're criticizing you. Or they could just be coming from, you know, those people that are like healthy at every size, body positivity, whatever it is, and they're like, that you shouldn't be like so obsessive over it. They're talking from where they are now, not from where they started. You need to allow yourself to finally get yourself into this. You're a nurse. I'm going to let you talk about that before I go into the next question. You're a nurse, you can easily help this. But the last thing you want to do is be old, fragile, weak, unhealthy, and in and out of the doctor's office. I can't even stand walking into that place. Like, I could really need to go and I don't even want to go. It's like, I can't, I'm blessed to not have to visit the doctor's office every single friggin' week. But there are people that do because they neglected their health, or sadly, they have some hereditary thing. So that's why if you don't have that case, you should be very grateful for the body you do have and wanting to see the potential you can get out of that body, because you are not someone that's on the other spectrum. But speaking of that, you're working as a nurse. You see these cases every single day. It's the last thing you want to be putting yourself in, isn't it? And use this as how you use what you're doing to be a good role model for your family, because you have 3 kids. A lot of people could see it as I'm guilty for this. I'm guilty for that. I'm putting myself first over my kids. I have this spare time. I should be spending it with my kids. But if you weren't looking after yourself, what would the alternative be? So that's a big topic. So take it with you.
Okay. So, I mean, the first thing of, you know, I always feel like I've almost been a nurse for almost 11 years. Come May, I'll be in this field for 11 years. And I see it time and time again where I hear patients say, I wish I would have done something differently when I was younger. And to that aspect, I talk all the time of saying your health is not a priority until it's an issue. Everybody's like, yeah, I'll deal with that. You know, I don't have to worry about that. I'm 30. I don't have to worry about that. I'm 40. I'm just going to keep drinking. I'm just going to keep laying on the couch. And then all of a sudden 50, 60 rolls around and you're taking 4+ prescription medications and you can't even wipe your own ass by the time you're 70. And then all of a sudden it's a priority. So yeah, it's all of these things of like, you know, I came into the whole field of being a nurse because I wanted to help people with their health. But now I've really seen a huge transition in just the way that I nurse and the way that I show up for myself and for my patients and for my family, is that we're looking at this as a proactive and not a reactive point of things, right? A lot of times when people are coming into the hospital or the doctor's office, it's like, well, now we have to be reactive because you've ate for 30 years like a human trash can and you're 40 pounds overweight, and now you have a hip fracture because you never lifted a weight after you left high school. So now we have to try and almost undo some of this damage, whatever we can try and do. So now I'm coming at things as a proactive, like, let's keep it from ever reaching that point.
I love that. And I guess you can go even more into this, because I'm sure there are so many examples out there where, like I said this on the last podcast as well, but you don't appreciate what you have until it's taken away from you, whether that be your health. Like, look at the last 2 years when we went through that crazy thing where we were trapped in our houses for ages. Many people got the gym taken away from them. Many people weren't even able to train because they didn't have much at home, and then they ended up losing a lot of muscle mass, aka me. And it's like, you don't appreciate that strength or that muscle mass you have because you've built it up over so long to only then lose it. And now you're actually appreciating what you had. And this happens with your health. This happens with everything. And it's almost like, I hate using smokers as an example, but it's almost like I'll deal with that later. And then they're 70, they're 80, and they're dealing with all the issues from smoking in their youth. And they're not even realizing that all these different things are connected. Like, now they're getting migraines all the time, or now they're coughing up their lungs all the time. there's so many different things, and lead this into the whole feeling guilty thing with your kids, because I feel like this is a really big thing for mums listening to this, because there's a lot of mums that listen to this, and it's always, you know, as a mum, you always want to put your kids first. You always end up putting yourself last. So speak on that.
Yeah, so kind of going back a little bit to before and when I first got into my fitness journey, if you will, is like for years, I put myself off. I was doing everything for everybody else. And then I started to just feel shit about myself, honestly. Like my confidence was lacking. I felt tired. I wasn't showing up as my best self. And then it kind of led to a lot of resentment, honestly, like towards my husband, towards like my situation with my family of like, I'm doing everything for everybody else. And like nobody gives a shit about me. And it was a lot of resentment until I started really showing up for myself and setting those boundaries of like, no, I'm working out at this time. Like, even if it had to do with like my husband of like, you have to start picking up, you know, our toddler from pre-K because this is the time that I work out. So setting those really clear boundaries. And even sometimes now I can kind of struggle with the mom guilt a little bit, but now it's more transformed of I know now because I feel so much better and I've set these boundaries. I show up better for everybody else. I show up better as a mom. I show up better as a career woman. I show up better as a coach because I have confidence. I feel good about myself. I'm energized. I make promises to myself and I keep them. And then the second part of that is get your kids involved, guys. A lot of times I see like, even with my clients, like I couldn't work out because my kids were still awake, or I couldn't work out because my kids were this. And get your kids involved. Like my kids absolutely love it. I have tons of reels posted. My kids working out in the gym with me. I have my little boy. He's now going to almost be 5. But since before he was 1 year old, strapped to my chest as we went for a hike or in a double stroller, I have to do my steps and my cardio. So I do TikTok dances with my 7-year-old daughter, who's a competitive cheerleader. So it's just kind of like I said, habit stacking of, yeah, I have cardio, I have steps to do. I also have mom guilt. So what can I do with my kids to get them involved and do all of this at the same time to take care of myself, but also spend time with them?
I love that. And I think a big part here also is you can always include family walks into your life. Like it doesn't have to be just walking on the walking desk. If you can get outside and get your kids involved, that's activity. And at the same time, it doesn't just need to be one foot in front of the other doing a walk to get your steps in. You can take them to the park. You can run around with them. If you have a dog, they want to walk. They want to play around. Object in motion stays in motion. Yes, I always used to use the analogy of physics where you have a solid. As soon as you apply a little bit of heat, it starts to move and it becomes into a liquid. And then you apply more heat and then it becomes into a gas. So those particles become more and more active, more and more energetic, the more energy that you apply to it, because heat, in essence, is an energy. So that's the way that I always used to view it. And yeah, I guess sometimes the last thing you want to do is get moving, but even if you just get in like 5 minutes, that's going to tick off the I showed up for myself. I said I'm going to do the thing. This is now building confidence. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't need to be exactly what you had on paper. You could have a 15-minute walk planned in. But if you even get 5 minutes, you can feel like a failure for only doing 5 minutes, or you can reframe. I think a big part of this is in the reframing of anything that you do, reframing it to say, I actually showed up for myself when I didn't want to do it. I feel good about that. Not, I showed up for myself, but it's not good enough, blah, 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 because we do that with everything that we do. And sometimes when it comes to food, it's just about making the less shit choice. And then you can beat yourself up about, oh, but I didn't do this, I still didn't do this. You still made a better choice than what you would have made if you didn't intervene and have that self-awareness to make the less shit choice. So that's something to think about. Now, on the next topic with that, it's, I guess, because you also competed, I also competed. I remember we spoke about this after you competed as well, and you were talking about the like we all go through this after a diet, after anything. It's the actually, you know what? I want to make this relatable to people listening to this because it's not a competitor's podcast. When you do a crash diet, when you do any diet and lose weight really fast, or you do something that involves faster results, and then you get to that end place, it's really difficult to then compare real life progress to what once was, because you'll always feel like you're going too slow, you're doing something wrong. And if you also tie something back to an old version of you, that can really skew up how you view yourself, how you view your body, how you view progress. So maybe you can kind of actually, you know what, it actually also applies. You're going to love this. It's not just the fact that you got lean. It's the fact that you are bombarded with lean images of people that are competing online, that are fitness models, that are shredding. This is the part that I don't understand. People shred and do diets, and sometimes unsustainable diets, to do a photo shoot, to post that photo shoot online. And then us mere mortals are looking at these dieted down photo shoots, wanting to look like that without realizing they don't live like that. That was at the end of a diet for a photo shoot, yet you're wanting that look. Do you see how that doesn't connect? That's not lifestyle lean. You want that body because that's what's plastered all over there. And that's what people get paid to look like. If it is their lifestyle body, that's what they get paid to look like. And you never know what's going on in their head. Many of them have very disordered relationships with food in their body. So let's talk, there was a lot there. So it's talking about how you can have a distorted perception of rates of progress and a distorted perception of what lifestyle lean actually is, because so many of us are scared to have even a little bitest, that can be a word, little bitest of fat on our body.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's all about aligning your goal with your willingness of what you want to do and what you want to give up. So for me, for example, there was a time during prep where I had to say no to a lot of things, you know, Mother's Day, my daughter's birthday, my son's birthday, my birthday. I was in prep during all of those. Taking my kids to Disneyland, I was in prep. I had to take my own food. And that is because it's for a specific goal. But people don't realize that, because then afterwards you just see the pictures of me super lean in a sparkly bikini looking all glammed up. So people think automatically like I can do this. Yeah, you can do this. But do you want to do this? Do you want to say no to the birthday cake on your kid's third birthday? Do you want to not be able to have a meal on Mother's Day with your family? Do you want to go to these extravagant vacations and have to bring your food 10 hours from home in an ice sack with you? Or, you know, do you want to do those things? And that's where I think the lines really get blurred, is because you see the aftermath, but you don't see the 6 or 5 months that it took to get there and the sacrifices that one made. So I think you touched really good on saying you don't understand what's going on in these people's heads, like mental health. They can look really good on the outside, but in their head, they're a mess. And I kind of want to piggyback off of that and go on to say, not only mentally are they struggling probably, but your internal health suffers. When you are chronically dieting or even short-term dieting for a show and you get to a level of lean where you are not meant to be and definitely not meant to maintain, your body will only do that for so long until it fights back. And you can see it. You can go to numerous pages where these girls are either bikini competitors or they are just living super lean. And I guarantee you will see gut issues, you will see hormonal issues, you will see now they have a really bad relationship with food because it was never meant to be that way. Hopefully
it did. They then call themselves fluffy when they're not fluffy. They do, this is me with a full stomach, this is me in the morning, it's normal. It's like, yeah, look the fucking same and you're lean as fuck. But in their eyes, which you're not seeing, in their eyes, they feel really fat. And I know this because you went through the same thing yourself. And I know that you did because I did too. And it takes so long, like no one's immune to it. And we just know it's like, it's the language where you feel like you're getting too fluffy or you're getting too fat. And then you look back on past photos and you're like, shit, damn, you can see lines in me. And I thought I was fat. What? It's ridiculous. And it's not just those things you gave up with your family. But there was also that body distortion. And for many other people, it's also the relationship with food they end up giving up. Because I get so many people who come to me who now have social anxiety. They have eating out anxiety. They think they're aware of these things, but they're not, because they don't realize that their distension in their belly, the uncomfortableness they feel in their gut, has a lot to do with the fact that they're chronically under eating. And you don't even have to be under eating. You can be eating normally, but you're undernourished because you're not eating the right amounts of food. Or your intake is so sporadic with ups and downs that your gut and your body don't know what the hell to do with the food because you're not processing it in a right way. And I was going through my memories on Instagram, and I remember, and this time last year, I was doing a massive rant on how toxic thickness is, because it's like, you can eat all you want, but that doesn't mean that eating all you want is going to be conducive to muscle growth. Not only are you getting enough nutrients in, are you getting enough protein in, but you can't force feed muscle growth. You need to train, recover, and eat enough to be in a surplus to then get you the muscle growth. But the training needs to be there, because if there's no muscle breakdown, there's no gap, or there's no hole to fill to then fill up on top of it, sort of thing. So there's that. Oh, and there was something that I used to believe that is so wrong. But when you get really lean, I used to think you need to get really lean to make yourself more anabolic to muscle gain. And I learnt this 3 years ago that I was so wrong, because you're actually a lot more anabolic to fat when you get that lean, because your body wants to first put on fat to regain the muscle that you lost, number one, but also it's freaking hungry and we're born to survive. So I was really wrong there, which is why it's just like, you need to make sure that everything is balanced and push through that discomfort if you did get that lean, because your body needs to find a healthy set point, because until you get to that healthy set point, you don't have the hormones there to allow you to build the muscle that you want to build, to get the most out of training that you want to get. You're just going to get more injured. You're going to stay plateaued. And you don't even have to be really lean for this. Malnourishment is the exact same thing, because your body isn't functioning the way that it should. And you know this because you're a nurse. I'm sure that you've seen many cases of this, which brings us on to the next topic. The reality of building muscle, the expectations of results, because a lot of people think that you can build your dream body in 6 months or in 12 months of just training really freaking hard and doing the work, because you can get 6 to 12 months of progress if you're in fat loss phase. But when it comes to building muscle, it's a different story, especially if you're doing it at maintenance and not in a surplus.
Yeah, I mean, it's a super slow process. And I think that the sooner people will grasp that, the sooner they will stop having or being let down. One, because you have one camp that is super afraid to lift a heavy weight because they're afraid they're going to get bulky. And then you have the other camp of women who's like, I've been strength training for 3 months. I still look the same. So there's two different camps here of like one who fears it and one who has unrealistic expectations. So it takes so long to build muscle. Not only does it take time, but it takes consistency. It takes everything being in line outside of the gym. Like your 1 hour workout 4 to 5 times a week, you have to then make sure that you're supporting it the other 23 hours of the day outside of it. Like you said, Ruby, of your nutrition, your sleep, your recovery, your stress. All of those things have to then come into play for you to see the muscle that you want to see. And then also making sure that you're following a training program with progressive overload. Because if you are someone who's following swipe workouts or HIIT workouts or your F45 or 95 or whatever that F class is, where everyone's jumping around, like you're not going to build that muscle. So you have to make sure that you're checking all the boxes and then you're giving it ample time.
I find that a lot of people get very bored in the process because their mindset isn't in the right place. And this is why having a physique-only focus can really screw you up, because physique changes do not happen that fast. And we went on and on about this in the very last podcast you listened to, if you listened to the one right before this. But physique changes come so slow, and it has such negative repercussions on how you treat your effort to your food, because if you're putting all of your progress markers based solely on the physical changes that you're seeing or the results that you're seeing along the way, you're going to end up self-sabotaging along the way, saying, what's the point? I'm going to put in less effort. And without even realizing, you'll get less and less results, maybe even start to stagnate and blame yourself, blame your coach if you have a coach. But without realizing, your effort level went from here down to here because your mindset started to fade because you're not seeing the results you think you should be seeing. And I'm guilty of this too, because I've been smashing away. Arse genes aren't in my genetics. And I need to push myself into more of a surplus now because I'm getting so sick of it. I'm like, nah, fuck this. I'm going to put myself into a higher surplus and train and like really push my intensity on the training that I have. But I've been trying to grow my ass for ages, and I got the results that I wanted after 3 years of building in a consistent surplus until lockdowns happened and I lost my ass, until Ruby wanted to do a half marathon and she lost her ass a little bit more that way. But now I have to go through that whole process of trying to get it back again. And just because I've done it before doesn't mean it's just going to come easy again now, no matter how much muscle memory I have, because muscle tissue is expensive. You need to feed it for long enough. And yeah, for long enough. And I guess a lot of people will say, yeah, well, it's easy for you to say you're already looking fit, you're already looking athletic. But there are people that just have that little bit of fluff that they want to lose. Or they're like, I'm not too bad, but there's just this little bit of fat I want to replace with muscle. They think that fat loss is the answer. But that leaner look that you want isn't going to come from going into another fat loss phase. It's going to come from building muscle, being patient for a longer period of time. Take that.
Yeah, I think that's a major issue. And I was even guilty of this, years back, is I kept thinking the answer was to diet. I need another diet. I need a different diet. This diet's not working. I don't look like that person. When really, every time I dieted, because I had never taken time to actually strength train for a long enough time, fueling my body like I needed to, I would, lose weight and get smaller. But that's all I was doing, is I was a smaller version of myself. That's it. Every single time I would decrease my body fat, there was nothing there to give the tone or the shape or looking like I lifted, because I didn't. Like, a lot of times people are like, I want to look muscular. I want to look athletic. Like, you want to look like that, then you actually got to do the thing. Like, it's not just like keep dieting down and that muscle will magically appear. No, you have to actually lift to look like you lift.
Yeah, and I'm going to reiterate this again because I don't think there'll be enough podcasts where you can say this, but that toned midsection that you want that has hard definition doesn't come from dieting. It doesn't come from just 1 year of lifting weights. And you need, like I always say, the stronger you get, the more muscle potential you have to build, because you will end up lifting more volume over a period of time. Like, for example, my volume about 5 years ago with my training, wow, 5 years. My volume, 5 years, there you go, 5 years. My volume 5 years ago with my training was probably a quarter of what it is now. Whereas I'm doing 3 sets of RDLs at 100 kilos. 5 years ago, I probably would have been doing that at 60, 70. So I can get a lot more out of a session. That's a lot more stress on my muscle. That's a lot more that my muscle is revving up its metabolism, so to speak, because I'm tearing more muscle down and having to repair more muscle and build more muscle. Like, that's a metabolic process. That's a you're gonna look leaner process. That's a you're biasing fat burning process because muscle is expensive. Like, there are so many different elements that don't make sense in your head until you actually do the thing. And it's that process over time that builds a really strong body that looks solid. You can attest to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it takes time. I always try and put the reminder out there as like, you probably have been neglecting yourself nutritionally, physically for maybe 20 years, at least 15 years. And now all of a sudden you sign up with a coach and you want, or you don't, you're trying to do it on your own, but you want these results in 3 months. It's like it took you 10 to 15 years to get to the position that you're in. It's going to take you several years to now get back out of it.
I love that. I think we covered everything, but I guess to end this podcast, I want you to tell me the main culprits that you see hold a lot of women back. Maybe throw 3 at me, and let's talk about those, and that can be a nice bow tie.
I think the number one main thing cannot be beat is going to be impatience, whether that be in fat loss or in a building phase, whether you want to build muscle or you want to lose fat. Impatience is the death of it, because a lot of times I'll see girls like maybe they'll only lose 1 pound, but their body composition is entirely different, and maybe that was just 4 weeks, and they're like, I really wanted to lose 4 pounds or 6 pounds, this is going too slow, so they'll quit, or they'll switch to a different coach who's going to crash diet them, or they will, start dieting and start having issues with adherence or binge eating or something like that. So I'll say, that dieting is not for you. Like, we need to spend time at maintenance, feeding your body, fixing your relationship with food. And then it's constantly like, when can I diet again? When can I be in a calorie deficit? When can I do this? So they're very impatient, and it's killing the progress.
I think that's actually the most important one. I don't even think we need any more than that. Like, impatience would be my one as well, for the exact same reasons that you said. And it's almost like when you're in the moment, 4 weeks, 4 months, 6 months seems like it's been forever, but in the context of things, it's really, really, really short. And then this is why the whole 12-week thing, the whole 12-week minimum period, like all these things that are showing 12 weeks can put out the false expectation that in 12 weeks you're expected to get your dream body. You could do something drastic for 12 weeks, but whatever you do in that 12 weeks is not going to stay there if you took that route. So I guess that's actually the biggest takeaway. It's like, why are you so impatient? What are you focusing on? Are your goals really riveted down into what you want to make you feel good, to make your life better? Or is it just some aesthetic thing that you're going to chase around like a dog chasing its tail, feeling like every single year you're putting in all this work, spending all this time, spending all this money, only getting more lost, confused, and nowhere closer to where you want to be?
Yeah, and also reflect on, where has impatience gotten you so far, right? Impatience has probably gotten you crash diet after crash diet of losing the weight and gaining the same weight back. So, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That's essentially what you're doing. You're hiring a coach. You're saying, I want to do X amount of things in X amount of time. You're putting that timeline of being impatient, and you're repeating that same behavior and that same pattern that has gotten you nowhere. So, and also, you weren't in a hurry when you were eating fast food and drinking for 10 years. You were in no hurry then, but now all of a sudden it's like, I need this yesterday. So you got to learn to play the long game. As annoying as that sounds, the time is going to pass anyway. So you can either spend it getting you closer to your goal, or quitting and doing shit decisions and getting you further away.
I absolutely love that. So I hope you guys got a lot from this podcast. And if there is anything else that you want to hear about, you want to discuss, any questions that you have, I'm going to put Alec Britton Fitness is her Instagram handle. It's going to be put down below. You have me down there as well. And if you enjoy this podcast, please share it with someone. And if you're a nurse, it would be really nice to reach out, because you guys have the most crazy lives, and I completely understand it, because I do coach quite a few nurses, and that's why I'm like, I need to get you on, because the way that my nurses make it work, the way you make it work, it's really just coming down to knowing what you need to do, when to execute it, and putting in those missing pieces so that you can then maximize the time that you have. Because if you're always half-assing it or only half committing to things are going to be so spread out that you might be giving a lot of time to your family or a lot of time to this, that, and the other. But is it quality time? Is it time that's actually moving you forward and making you feel good? Or is it time that's making you feel guilty because you think you should be doing something else?
Absolutely. And as a mom and as a nurse, I feel like we should be setting an example for our patients, for our kids. So they're going to learn by watching and seeing what we do. If you're somebody that's going in to see your patients and you're 50 pounds overweight and you're talking to them about diet and diabetes and nutrition, but you're not living the lifestyle, I find that very conflicting. Same thing with your kids. If you're telling them to stop eating junk food and go play outside, but you're sitting there watching Netflix, filling your face full of a bag of chips, it's like they're learning by example. So really be that example in the healthcare field and in your family.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on. And if you guys like this podcast, please give it a 5-star rating, and you will hear me on the next one. Have a glorious start to 2024.
Thank you.